Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 412 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined this week by the undefeated super-featherweight prospect, the world contender, Mr. Archie Sharp. Archie, good to have you on, my man. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. It's good to be on. I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, very good, my man. Thanks for filling in. Eddie couldn't make this week due to a few issues, I guess. And I really am happy that you've stepped in. We did this in the past, I think. It's got to be probably a couple of years ago now. But yeah, it's good to have you back on. Before we get into things, by the way, how's things with you? What's the latest on you, just in a nutshell, Arch?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thanks, mate. Just training away, and just in a few negotiations now with trying to get some opponents over the line and some fights.
There we go. Cannot wait to see what happens next for you. But before we get to all of that, let's start with the review part here. We're going to start with this one that went down last Friday, September 1st. It was at the Bolton Whites Hotel in Bolton. It was live on Channel 5. Couple fights to mention here. I'm going to start with the undercard just briefly. Samuel Antwi with a KO in the 12th and final round against a very, very game Mason Cartwright, now 19-4 with a draw. Antwi now 17-2. It was for the vacant British super welterweight title. Cartwright KO'd on his feet, actually. It kind of reminded me of when David Price got knocked out by Povetkin, where he was kind of like knocked out but stiff and standing up. A little bit like Terry Harper when she got knocked out by Alicia Baumgardner. It was the same kind of thing. Really good win for Antwi. Like I say, I think the fight was competitive. Antwi started the fight really well. He ended a lot of the early rounds well as well, ended the round well, fresh in the mind of the judges. I think honestly it was like fight of the year contender domestically, and ended with definitely a contender for knockout of the year for sure. Getting to the main event though, Arch, I'm going to come to you here. It was for the vacant IBO light heavyweight world title. Lyndon Arthur now 23-1. An unexpected KO in the 10th round. Brian Suarez in the other corner, 18-1. He's now 18-2. Prior to this, he had knocked out 17 of his 18 opponents, and the one loss was by knockout. So doesn't usually hear the final bell. Didn't hear the final bell here. But yeah, what did you think of it? Obviously, Arthur down in round 4 as well. That was unexpected. And then Suarez counted out following that left hook to the body in round 10.
Yeah, of course. I thought it was a good fight. Like you say, I was very shocked to see Arthur get caught with and go down, and he was hurt. He was hurt in the fourth. He was hurt for a good couple of rounds after that. I wasn't too sure what I was expecting with Arthur, because I'm not sure if you agree, but I thought he looked really stiff, and I'm not too sure what that was. Because he's not normally as stiff as that. He looked really stiff, and he looked really readable, because that right hand over the top was getting delivered a bit too often, really. But yeah, like you say, he pulled out the bag, got himself a good win, good body shot there. And it was obviously a hurtful body shot, because it was a delayed reaction. He didn't just get hit and go straight down. He got the shot landed, and there was a couple of seconds in between, and then that was it. He was not getting up for love or money.
Yeah, good assessment. I mean, like I say, this guy, Suarez, came out of nowhere, and I was a little bit sceptical. I thought you know, in my mind, the fight's probably not going to go the distance. This guy either knocks you out or gets knocked out. And when he had Lyndon down, I was very surprised. I think Lyndon has looked a bit different since that second Yard fight. I don't think he's looked too great since then. Didn't look great.
I agree.
Didn't look great last time out against Boris Crichton. Went 10 rounds with him, and I think Crichton had about 48 hours notice for the fight, and then gets in with this guy here and was 100% losing. He was on his way to losing that fight on points. I think Suarez has got to kick himself as well. He almost had it in the bag and he gets hit with that body shot out of nowhere. So happy for Lyndon. He's a friend of the show. He's been on a few times. Really happy for him, but it wasn't a convincing win all in all, and I think he's in a bit of a tough spot, and I want to see him maybe put in another domestic dust up. There's enough names there at light heavy. Put him in with one of those guys before pushing him onto, the bigger scene. He's IBO world light heavyweight champion. Fantastic, great. But getting in with these guys, man, if you lose to a guy who no one's heard of, you're in a terrible spot, even if the guy's good. And this guy was just an unknown quantity, and he almost ended up losing that fight, Lyndon Arthur. Moving now to Braehead, the Braehead Arena in Glasgow, Scotland. Just one fight to touch on here. Ricky Burns with a TKO in round 8 against Willie Limond. Ricky Burns now 45-8 with a draw. Willie Limond now 42-6. I said it on last week's show. I don't think Ricky Burns was going to really struggle with Willie Limond. I think Willie Limond at the height of his career was nowhere near Ricky Burns at the height of his. And as I'm sure you know, Arch, I know that you've obviously been in that Matchroom gym a few times. I'm guessing you've probably seen Ricky down there a few times.
Sparred Ricky, a few times myself.
Yeah. I mean, he's 40 years old now, but I thought he looked very, very good for a 40-year-old man. His feet were excellent. I don't want to see him carrying on. Obviously, he's a legend. He's already sealed his legacy. But he's always, from what I've heard, Archie, lived the life on the outside, and it showed.
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, longevity in the sport because of that reason. He even when I used to go down sparring him, he's obviously a lot older than myself, and the engine and the work rate was always there. That was never to question. And he just lives the life, mate. He does everything correctly. He doesn't blow up overweight. He stays fit. He stays in the gym, and he was surrounded by great other athletes as well. So, Ricky Burns is a legend. He's a really nice fellow as well. Like I said, I've done many rounds with Ricky, and it depends what he does from now on. I'm not sure whether he'll fight again, but you just don't know. With Ricky, he just loves the sport and he loves to be in the ring.
Yeah, all the best to Ricky there. And then, the final card to mention of this review part of the show was obviously the big one at the Manchester Arena, Lancashire, United Kingdom, live on Sky Sports Box Office. Going to touch on the undercard. Lauren Price with a win. She's now 5-0, the Olympic gold medalist. A 6th round technical decision there against Lolita Mozea, who didn't have much notice for the fight, but had a really big record, 18-1. She'd been beaten in that one loss to Savannah Marshall as well. Lauren Price, like I say, with the win. It was a cut. It was a cut on the left eye of Mozea that caused the doctor to step in. It went to the cards, and like I say, technical decision for Lauren Price. It wasn't televised, so I didn't actually see it. Lauren Price already wants a fight with Natasha Jonas. That'd be a great fight. It's a massive step up, obviously. Also on the card, Florian Marku with a first round TKO against Dylan Moran. That was quite unexpected. I think. Yeah,
unexpected. Yeah.
I think. I thought Marku. I thought he'd win, but I thought there's a chance he might struggle. I thought that Dylan Moran was more of a boxer kind of thing, could give him a few issues. I was saying as well on last week's show, it's funny with Florian because, he didn't look great against a guy called Maxim Prodan, but then he come back and he obliterated Chris Jenkins. No one's ever done that to him, and he got another obliteration here. 13-0 with a draw now. First round TKO. Dylan Moran now 18-2. There was a bit of bad blood, I think. I think Florian Marku kind of brings that with everyone he fights, but good to see the guys showing good sportsmanship afterwards. A few videos going around, both guys embracing in the dressing room. Also on the card, Fraser Clark with a win now, 8-0, a retirement in round 6. Dave Allen didn't come out for round 7. He's now 21-6 with 2 draws. Friend of the show, Dave Allen, was always going to be a really tough fight. Almost Clark looked like he was on the verge of being disqualified. 2 points deducted for low blows in the 6th round. He kept hitting Dave Allen low. Dave Allen kept making a meal of it. Fraser Clark, dominated the fight really. Didn't let Allen work close at all. Whenever they were close, Fraser would grab hold, and from a distance he was letting the shots rip in, and also he kept finding a lovely right uppercut time and time again. But Dave Allen, as we know, tough as they come, hasn't boxed anyone of note since losing to David Price about 6 years ago, and good to see him not actually get hurt badly, but retired on his stool. I think a perforated eardrum. All the best to both guys there. What else did we have on the card? Michaela Mayer with a win. She's now 19-1, a points win against Sylvia Bartot, who's now 11-3 with a draw. Wasn't a great fight, that one, to be totally honest with you. I do like Mayer. She's another friend of the show, but I thought she could have possibly got a stoppage here, but no, it wasn't to be. And I think, again, this fight was at 140. She's only just moved up to 135. I'm not even sure why this fight was at 140. She actually came in over that weight. She weighed in at 141.25. Interesting. Also on the card as well, Adam Azim, now 9-0, a unanimous decision over 10 against Aram Fanian, who was from Ukraine. He's now 23-2. He was actually a decent fighter. He could certainly fight. I gave him a couple of rounds, actually. Adam Azim seemed to just be cruising early on. I really didn't like what I was seeing, actually. A lot of singular shots. He's got a fantastic piercing jab, though, but he just wanted to jab, and he'd sometimes put a right hand behind it, a little 1-2, but I didn't see enough combinations. And then as the fight went on, I think he hurt Fanian quite late on. I think it was probably about round 8, something like that. And then after that, he started to let his hands go. He started to show his class, and he went through the gears a bit and looked really good. And at one point, it looked like a stoppage could be coming, but it didn't come in the end. 9-0, unanimous decision over 10, like I say. Wouldn't mind seeing Fanian again. What else on that card? 2 more fights to mention there. Mark Heffron with a huge upset loss to Jack Cullen. Mark Heffron now 29-3 with a draw. TKO'd in round 3 by Jack Cullen, now 22-4 with a draw. It was for the British and Commonwealth super middleweight titles. It was such an upset here. A lot of people were completely writing Cullen off. And I said it on last week's show. Cullen gets thrown in to lose to so many people. Every time he fights, I go through that list of people. He got thrown in against John Harding Jr., took his O. He got thrown in against Felix Cash, got knocked out, fair enough. Gets thrown in with Zach Chelly, gets a draw. Gets thrown in with John Doherty, beats him, takes his O. Thrown in with Avni Yildirim, beats him. Thrown in with Kevin Saggio, got knocked out. Thrown in with Diego Pacheco, special prospect, gets knocked out. Gets in with Mark Heffron and actually knocks Heffron out. And he's not a noted puncher at all, Cullen. But Heffron walked right into the shot, got a little bit greedy. The pair had sparred many, many rounds. That usually means that we're going to see a distance fight. But Heffron was expected to get the knockout here, and no one expected Cullen to do that. I'm really happy for him. Looked massive in there as well, when the pair were next to each other. But really, really happy for Cullen. I think this is really the win his career, I think, needed. And he's a much better fighter than he gets credit for. And, I'm just really happy for him, but gutted for Heffron at the same time. The main event, Liam Smith now 33-4 with a draw. He was TKO'd in this rematch in round 10 by Chris Eubank Jr., now 33-3. Smith down once in round 4 and then once in round 10. He was cut as well. The referee ended up jumping in. I'm going to try and be really brief, and I'll come to you in a second, Arch. Round one, I felt was a very scrappy round. Probably would edge it to Eubank, but in all honesty, it was nothing worth. Nothing landed worth mentioning. It was really messy. The referee had a word during one of the moments in that round. It was just so scrappy. Round two, Eubank round for me. Again, I didn't think there was too much in it. I felt Smith was being very patient at that point. Eubank, I felt already, you could see, was fighting a lot more intelligently. He wasn't being wild like his old self. He was happy to take a few steps back. You could see that he certainly respected Liam Smith, obviously. And yeah, his guard was up as well, permanently. And I'd never seen Eubank with his guard up as much as I'd already seen in those first two rounds. Like, Eubank doesn't like to have a high guard, but he did have it in this fight here. Round three, another Eubank round. Smith, I felt, was constantly on the front foot, but just wasn't throwing much. Eubank, again, boxing smartly, not over-committing, not jumping in like he normally would if he lands a good shot. Obviously, in the fourth round, Smith goes down. It was the same round that Smith got Eubank out in the first fight as well. It was an uppercut to the chin, and very cleverly, Smith spits his gum shield out. You could see he had his wits about him. The corner take ages to clean it. He probably had about 25 seconds to recover with the count and the washing of the gum shield. Big round for Eubank though. Smith was taking a bit of a hiding. Round five, another Eubank round. He came out like a firework. He unloaded and almost emptied everything on Smith on the ropes. A lot of the shots, I think, were being rode by Smith. A lot were being took on the gloves. Liam was he was back on the front foot towards the second half of the round. Eubank still probably won every round up to that point, but Smith looked quite strong again. I felt like he weathered the storm and finished the round strongly. I was excited for the next few rounds, but then, like I say, Eubank started to just turn over. Another Eubank round in round six. I already needed a knockout for Smith, or at least a few knockdowns for it to turn in his favour. The pace was starting to slow in that sixth round. Smith still largely unable to land anything of note on Eubank. And by the way, Eubank's jab was electric. I'd never seen it as good. And from that point onwards, like I say, dominated round 7, dominated round 8, dominated round 9, and then in round 10 got the stoppage. I think there's some referees that wouldn't have jumped in. I think it was probably a bit premature. So I can understand that Smith will be angry that he was actually stopped and he's got a loss by a TKO to Eubank. But at the same time, I think he was not in any position to win at all. And I didn't really want to see him get his head punched in for another 6 minutes. And impressive from Eubank. I think definitely something was up with Smith. They're talking about the weight cut. He lost 3 stone, Arch. That's just mental. Shouldn't have ballooned up like that, obviously. And it seemed like he rolled one or maybe even both ankles in the fight when we've seen a few replays. It didn't look great on his feet, and he couldn't find angles that he normally finds. And also, the power in his shots didn't really seem there. But anyway, forget about what I thought about it. What did you think about it, my man?
Yeah, so I think what you've obviously nailed it on the head from round to round, and I agree. I didn't have Smith winning any rounds, to be honest with you. I think it was all one-way traffic. To put the best I've seen Eubank box, to be fair. What's interesting is, obviously, as you know, I trained with Roy, and when I spoke to Roy after the fight, he said that's what the game plan was on the original fight, to get behind that jab and kind of like establish that jab nice and early, high guard as well. But he didn't do any of that on the first fight, and then obviously he's come out and he's basically, what Roy was saying is he knew Eubank had that in him. Whereas myself, even after the first fight, I said to Roy, I said, look, I don't think Eubank's just good enough. I just think no matter what, if they box 100 times, I think Smith beats him 100 times. Well, I was wrong there because, like I say, it was such a great performance from Eubank. Very sharp, like you say, used that jab, established that nice and early, and he was just so dominating through the whole fight, and he just grew with confidence every minute of the rounds. Every minute by minute, he was just growing with more and more confidence, and he was just bossing him. He was stronger. He was just pushing Smith all around. So, but like you say, it's hard because I don't want to take credit away from where credit's due to Eubank, but it did look like the Smith that I know and seen before. So there was definitely something up. It's just hard. You don't blow that sort of weight. Regardless, I know you probably picked up an injury, but that's a lot. That's a lot of weight to be shifting. So I don't know. And he's a man's man, and he's got obviously his ego. He don't want his pride. He don't want to hurt that by having to pull out the fight. He agreed to the fight. He didn't want to lose the rematch because obviously that was obviously going to be on the cards if the fight never went when the fight was supposed to happen. Eubank would have probably walked away and went for something else. But like you say, he rolled his ankle a couple of times as well. But he seems to say that that's a couple of it's happened a few times before, and he's just got on with it, and there's no excuse there. But credit where credit's due. I thought Eubank boxed brilliant, and he was just a better fighter on the night. It'd be interesting to see if they do a trilogy, but I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure because Smith was really, he was really against it. I just don't see what he could do differently next time. He just didn't throw no shots.
Yeah, it's so funny because when the first fight got made, Eubank was the big favourite, and then Smith knocks him out. Then in the rematch, all of a sudden, Smith's the big favourite, and then Eubank wins in a way in such a dominating fashion that a lot of people don't want to see the third fight, like myself. And if the third fight were to happen, Eubank would now be the massive favourite again. It's just so funny the way it works. It was really, really weird set of circumstances, a weird chain of events. But anyway, that brings the review part to a close. The final thing for me to do in this part is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated super lightweight contender. It is, of course, Mr. Richardson Hitchins. Richardson, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, sir. So, yes, the first time we've had you on, so welcome once again. Earlier today, I watched back that video of you and Eddie Hearn walking around your neighbourhood. I don't want to necessarily ask you the same questions Eddie asked you, but boxing really was a way out for you, Richardson, wasn't it? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, ever since I found the sport of boxing and laced up a pair of gloves, and, boxing was an outlet to show me it was more in the world than just my block or my neighborhood where I'm from, so once I figured that out, and I just made sure I dedicate myself 100% to the sport, and I told myself that this is what I was gonna do, and this is what I was gonna try to achieve to become a perfectionist and hopefully one day become the best in the sport.
And obviously, as an amateur, you boxed some amazing fighters, man. Gary Antoine Russell, Virgil Ortiz Jr., Jaron Ennis, even guys like Jermaine Ortiz, even guys like Pat McCormack. Who was the best amateur out of all those guys that you boxed as an amateur, Richardson?
I think all those guys were great. Were great for my experience coming up, because a lot of the guys that you named around the time I boxed them, they had a lot more experience than me. They was in the boxing gym since they were, little young kids, maybe from the age of 5, 6, 7. Me myself, I started boxing at 12, 13. Which sounds like a young age, but it took some catching up, because even going to the Olympics. When I went to the Olympics, I was 18 years old, but I went to the Olympics, and I was only boxing for 5 years, while guys like Gary Antoine probably was in the gym since 5, 6 years old. So they've probably already been competing for 12 years, and I was a guy that I was God gifted, and I had a lot of talent. So even though I was boxing for 5 years and really wasn't experienced, I was able to compete at the highest level as an amateur. So I feel like all them guys were great for my experience coming up in boxing to, learn different things and see different things.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Even though you start at 12, these guys were starting at, much younger ages. And like you say, you had to catch up, because by the time they were 12, they already had a few years experience, of course. And as for Gary Antoine Russell, you say he probably started at 5 years old. He probably started at 5 months old or 5 weeks old, coming from that family. You mentioned there you represented Haiti at the 2016 Olympic Games, the nation of your parents. Was that a proud moment for you, despite the Olympic run obviously not going to plan as such?
I think that I would have medaled in the Olympic Games if I didn't fight Gary Russell the first day. I think that I was extremely talented to compete with the guys. You know, Gary Russell, when I fought him, we were somebody that shared the ring with each other before. We sparred numerous times before, so we knew each other, and he knew me, and he came from a boxing family. He comes from a boxing family where all his brothers box, his father's his trainer, and I'm just a young kid coming from Brooklyn, just from a boxing program. You know, I'm not coming. Like I said before, with 5-year boxing experience, where he had a brother and you know, he had brothers and people in his family that could give him game plans and, you know, kind of guide him through the ropes. Where with me, I just kind of had to take what I could get and learn from just being a sponge and adapt from just my talent and just go from there. And me making it to Olympics with little experience showed me that I was God gifted, and I knew from then that boxing was going to be something I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I think that going to the Olympics with my experience, it was great for me, and everybody around me was proud.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously you made the move to turn professional in early 2017. Your pro debut was on the Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia undercard. I mean, that's crazy in itself. At that point, were you signed to Mayweather Promotions straight out of your pro debut?
Yeah, straight out the Olympic Games. I took the opportunity right away to sign with Mayweather Promotions because they were the ones willing to give me an opportunity and give me what I needed at that time, you know, turning professional. And they were interested, you know. I was grateful for Floyd being interested in me, and he seen something in me. Leonard Ellaby also seen something in me, and we started building from there.
And I want to touch on 2 fights you had. I want to skip forward to some of the early fights, but I want to touch on 2 fights that you had a couple years back. In back-to-back fights, you boxed former world champion Argenis Mendez and also a good fighter in Malik Hawkins. Talk to me about both of those wins, if you can, just briefly, Richardson. Particularly the Mendez one. In boxing, Mendez is what I'd call a wily old fox, a tricky style for some of the younger guys.
Yeah, when I fought Mendez, I actually seen him box he boxed one of Floyd fighters in the Barclays Center. I think Juan Hernandez or Heraldez. He boxed him. I think Heraldez was 16, 17-0. And, you know, at the time, I think it was under the Wilder card. It was a big card in the Barclays. And I remember just actually the funny story, I was about 7-0. I want to say 7-0 around that time. Heraldez was older. He's probably around 27, 28 at that time. He was like 16, 17-0, and Mendez was supposed to be his big breakout fight. I know that I was sitting at the table, and I'm watching Leonard Ellaby just do his interviews about the kid Heraldez that's about to fight Mendez, saying how if he wins this fight, this is going to line him up for a world title, and this is his coming out party. And I was just looking. I was like 8-0 at that time. I was about 8-0 at that time, and I'm looking. I'm like, damn, like I can't wait till I get there. And then I remember I go to the Barclay, and Floyd came to the Barclay to see Heraldez, you know, take his big step up against Mendez. And I'm watching Mendez box and other guy box, and I'm like, I'll beat both of them. And I was about 7-8-0 at that time. I fought on the undercard. I was like, I'll beat both of them. I'm the guy that Floyd's supposed to be coming to the Barclay to watch, you know, have his big step up against his former world champion. And that fight ended up being a draw. And I took opportunity a few months later, you know, when COVID happened, I think that a lot of guys we was fighting a show box, but Mayweather Promotions was having a lot of the young guys, the young prospects, have the opportunity to go fight on Showtime Championship Boxing. So I told Leonard Ellaby, I want to fight on Showtime. I don't want to fight in show box no more, and I'm ready for a step up. And I told him, give me Mendez right away. And Ellaby was like, you sure you think you could beat him? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So around that time, when I fought Mendez, I probably was 10-11-0. I was really inexperienced. Mendez been through numerous world title fights. He fought numerous guys, numerous world champions, and a lot of top names around his division. So I just felt like I couldn't be stopped, and I just felt like Mendez was nowhere near my league. And I think if I would have had more experience, and if I wasn't out a whole year before I fought Mendez, because I fought Mendez during COVID, so we was out for a long time. So if I would have had more activity and had more experience, I think I would have possibly stopped Mendez. But I think that I did good for being a young kid. You know, his first big step up, it was a huge step up, and I got over the jitters, and I performed, and I did what I had to do to come home with the victory.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you going into detail like that. Obviously, it's great to hear these little backstories, how, you know, you wanted to be the guy that Floyd came out to see, and obviously you went on to beat this guy. Yeah, no, fantastic to discuss that. And obviously, yeah, you signed with Matchroom in the late part of 2022. You've had 2 fights with them now, about to have 3. How's things been business-wise with them? Is everything going well?
Yeah, I think things is going it's going okay. You know, as far as business, I don't want to say it's going great, because I feel like honestly, like Eddie's giving me opportunities in boxing. There was a point where I didn't understand the business, and I didn't understand how just everything goes, and it's guys around my age or with with a lot of talent that's not even signed to a huge promotion, or that came in or is begging to even get a television fight. We see these guys all the time in the gyms, and I think that for me to be a guy at 25, headlining my own show, having an opportunity to go against a guy like Jose Pedraza, it's a great opportunity for me to prove to the world that I am who I say I am, and when I say I am who I say I am, I believe that I'm one of the most talented young fighters in boxing. I'm one of the most gifted fighters, and I think that the boxing world already knows that, but I think that it's still questioned. So each and every performance I'll show, and I think that as far as the business, I'll get my just due. I just got to keep winning, because the reason why I say it ain't great, because you see guys like Devin Haney when they first came in and signed with Eddie, they automatically headline versus lower opposition than guys like Antonio Moran. They were finding headlines, making tons of money, and guys like Montana Love got a headline versus a guy in Stevie Sparks, which is Stevie Sparks' game, but he's not on the level as a Jose Pedraza on paper, we'll say. Even guys like Edgar Berlanga fighting I forgot the last dude he fought. What's the guy who fought, Brandon? What's the guy who Quigley, the guys like Quigley, Edgar comes to Matchroom. He headlines in New York versus a guy like Quigley. These are all guys that are lower level competition. You see, my first headline, in order for me to even have to get the opportunity, I had to take on a threat in Jose Pedraza, and it is what it is. Like I said, nothing was never handed easy to me from even my amateur days, and nothing is going to change. So I just got to keep working.
Richardson, 3 times there you mentioned Jose Pedraza. I think you're confusing him with Zepeda.
Jose Zepeda. Jose Zepeda.
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that you know who you're fighting.
I'm tripping. I actually put that on the VADA. Okay. No. Okay. I put Jose Zepeda because I was just filling out the VADA application. I'm like, did I put Jose Pedraza? I put Zepeda. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jose Zepeda.
Yeah, let's touch on your next fight, man. It's a super exciting fight from a fan's point of view. I cannot wait for it. You'll be boxing, as you say, former world champion Jose Zepeda. September 23rd in Orlando, Florida, live on DAZN. Richardson, this is by far the biggest test of your career to date. What are your thoughts on Zepeda as a fighter? It sounded, just when you were speaking about him there, that there's a lot of respect there.
Yeah, Zepeda is definitely you got to respect Zepeda because he's a guy that he's showed that he's game. He's been campaigning for world titles for a long time now in his career. He's fought for a world title 3 times. He's made it to that level, obviously, to compete for a world title, and making it to that level in its own is already a huge accomplishment. There's nothing I could say to Zepeda that's gonna throw him off, or there's nothing that's gonna throw off there's nothing. You know, it's different. You know, he's been through. He's been in. I believe he fought. Even though Pedraza have a lot of fights, I'm not sure if he ever went 12 rounds because I know all his world title. He fought 12 rounds with Jose Ramirez actually. So he's been in 12 rounds. He's been there with former world champions. But when I look at a guy like Zepeda, I believe that he never fought a talented fighter like me. I think when you look at guys like the guys that he fought, they were all gritty fighters, you know, come forward fighters, strong fighters. But I think when you come to me, when he get in there with me, it's gonna be the sweet signs. It's gonna be a whole different type of style. Stylistically, I don't think he ever dealt with a style like me in a fight. So we'll see. I think that how sharp and how smart I am is going to play a major key. And Zepeda's experience won't matter in that ring. I'll overwhelm him with my skills.
Now, Regis Prograis comes on this podcast quite regularly, and when he was getting ready to fight Zepeda, I remember him being so confident. And I had to remind him, like, Regis, don't overlook Zepeda. Look at what he did to the likes of like a Josue Vargas, another prospect coming up. I feel like Zepeda, if you're a pretender, Zepeda's the guy to find you out. I feel like he's legit, he's world level, and his power is certainly real. He's got a huge Mexican heart. How difficult of a fight are you expecting come September 23rd? It doesn't seem like you feel it's going to be that hard.
I think that, like I said, with my skills, I'm known. I think you have certain fighters in boxing that can make these anticipated fights that the fans and the people are excited for. That, you know, believe that it's going to be a war and a hard fight, which it might be. We never know, but I feel like I'm one of them fighters that can make a fight that's supposed to be hard look fairly easy on the outside. So we never know. Like I said, there's a lot of calculations, there's a lot of adjustments. I'm gonna have to make in it, and there's a lot of adjustments that Peter also is gonna have to make in there because it won't be easy. It won't be easy to. I just feel like it won't be easy to figure me out when he get in there. It won't. I'm no Josue Vargas. I'm no Regis Prograis. I'm no Jose Ramirez. My boxing level is on a whole different level than them guys. And like I said, September 23rd, there's a reason why I'm here with only 16 fights. There's a reason why I was beating guys like Argenis Mendez, who's actually a former world champion with only 11 professional fights. There's a reason why I ran through competition like that at a young age with very little experience in boxing. There's a reason, and I will remind the world again, September 23rd, the level I'm on.
And a win here, Richardson, where does that put you? I know you're already ranked 5th with the WBO, I think 7th with the IBF, but you would be beating one of, if not, the best guys in the division that doesn't currently have a belt.
Right. What would it put me? It'll put me a win with Zepeda. Well, I mean, like I said, just put him in front of me and see what I can do with them. Like I said, when you talk about the 140 division, I'm the guy. I'm the guy with the most skills. I'm the guy with the God-given ability. I'm the one that's gonna bring down a lot of the guys that, you know, the hype or the boxing world sees. I think that I think after this fight, if it's a world title, if we get a world title opportunity, it will be great. If not, we keep getting more experience and keep building. And I definitely 2024 I'll be a world champion. I believe that I'll become world champion if not this year. But we're definitely looking to get one more in if you know, everything goes well on September 23rd. You know, no injuries or anything. We definitely want one more fight. So yeah, we'll see how everything goes. But I definitely think my name should definitely be mentioned as far as, you know, one of the top guys at 140.
And you mentioned it there. The 140 division right now is seriously hot. I mean, obviously Teofimo just beat Taylor. Prograis beat Zepeda. Prograis is obviously going to be fighting Haney, who's now moving up. Gary Antoine Russell's knocking on the door. You got Subriel Matias with the IBF. You got Rolando Romero with the WBA. There's so many massive fights that can be made. I wanted to ask, is there anyone actually on your radar for a future fight, or is it just the champions and whoever has the belt at the time?
I mean, the closest guy door I'm knocking at right now is Teofimo Lopez. I believe he has WBO, and if we can get a mandatory spot for that would be great. I think that's what's going to likely happen. I think next year, me and Teofimo will Teofimo will have to defend his belt against me, and I'll be looking to take Teofimo world title here in New York in 2024. I think it's going to be a massive fight. So I think that's it looked like we're on a collision course.
I would love to see that fight. I think it would be fantastic. I wanted to ask you who you felt was the best fighter at 140, but I've got a sneaky suspicion you're going to say yourself. So let's leave you out of it. Behind you, Richardson, who is the best at 140 behind you?
I honestly don't know. I think it's a lot of players at 140. You got a guy like Subriel Matias. You got guys like me without a world title. You got guys like Gary Antoine without a world title. Oh man, there's so many competition, so much people at 140 where you can't name the best because you got a guy right now like Teofimo with a belt, but a lot of boxing fans would say if he comes up against me or Gary Antoine, he'll lose, and we don't even have belts yet. Or you got there's just so many guys at 140. Even the guy Puello that he held a world title. Guys like Kenneth Sims, who people don't talk about at 140. Elvis Rodriguez. The list goes on and on when it comes to so much competition at 140, and I think that the last man standing at 140 should definitely be crowned as the best fighter. Like they should be pound for pound. If a guy can cement his name as the guy at 140 in this era, because even though a guy like Josh Taylor was able to go and win a world championship at 140 and go undisputed into the weight class. I just feel like the talent and the talent when Regis and all these guys were competing for a world title is not as steep. You know what I'm saying? Because you got guys like Regis now, and so much talent. I just can't explain. I feel like when Regis won his belt, he won it. I forgot the guy he beat. I
think it was Kirill Relic.
Yeah, Kirill Relic, and you got guys like Ivan Baranchek who had a world title at that time. I felt like if I was around at that time, I would have had a world title easily, But I feel like right now to get a world title at 140, you're gonna have to beat that guy. You see, Teofimo had to go grab a belt at 140. He has to come and beat Taylor. If Devin Haney wants a belt at 140, he has to beat Prograis. If I want a belt at 140, I have to beat a guy like Devin, Prograis, or Teofimo. So I think that it's just way different now. The competition at 140 is at an all-time high right now.
I actually agree. I think you're 100% right with that. There's so many contenders that don't have a belt right now that are considered really good fighters, like obviously Zepeda, Ramirez, Barboza, yourself, Russell, Jack Catterall, a guy that probably should have been undisputed. There's just so much. There's too many names to mention. Okay, coming down to my last real question for you, Richardson. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, but I like to ask this question to everyone that we speak to from overseas. Favourite UK fighter, any era. It can be a guy still fighting now. It can be a guy who retired years ago. If you have one, if you don't, it's fine. But if you have one, who springs to mind, my friend?
I would say I like Prince Nassim.
Yes. That's the most popular answer, man. Everyone says it.
Yeah. because he was real. Like he had so much charisma and swag when it came to him that his presence was known in the ring even before he even showed his skills. So I like him.
Yeah, that is, like I say, the most popular answer. Everyone seems to love Prince. Just before we wrap things up, my man, I just want to say, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, particularly your supporters here in the UK, just sign out with a closing message. Say whatever you like before we let you go.
I love all my UK fans. The UK, the biggest boxing fans in the world. Hopefully one day Eddie can bring me to the UK for a huge fight. You never know. It can be maybe me and Catterall can match up over there, or even a guy like any guy. A lot of guys. There's a lot of guys at 140, or a guy like O'Hara Davis can maybe one day box in the UK. I would love to go out there. And if the UK fans are able to watch my fight September 23rd versus dangerous former world champion Jose Zepeda or live on DAZN, please tune in. It's going to be an exciting night of boxing, and there will be a lot of greatness in the ring that night. So make sure all the fans, especially the UK fans, all the boxing fans, tune in, and I'll appreciate it.
I'm sure they will be tuned in, my friend. Listen, Richardson, it's been a real pleasure having you this week. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck for September 23rd, and we'll speak sometime after the fight.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. One fight to announce in the news part. That's just all I have. October the 14th, it's going to be going down at the Fort Bend Epicenter in Rosenberg, Texas. One fight to mention over here. We're going to see Janibek Alimkhanuly. I think it's for the IBF and WBO world middleweight titles. He steps in with the undefeated Vincenzo Gualtieri, who's 21-0 with a draw. He's got a fantastic Italian-sounding name, although he's completely German. But all the best, though, to Gualtieri, because he's coming off a fantastic win last time out, a real upset against Esquiva Falcao. Took his O, become IBF world middleweight champion, and gets in with Alimkhanuly straight away in a unification bout. So yeah, that's it for the news. Again, the date for that is October 14th. Moving on now to the preview part. We're going to start with this one here. It goes down tomorrow night at the Lac Limy Casino in Quebec, Canada. 2 fights to mention over here. We're going to see Steve Claggett, who is 35-7 with 2 draws. He fights here for the NABF super lightweight title. He gets in with Carlos Sanchez, who is 24-1. Could be a good fight, this one. I've seen that Steve Cleggett's a big favourite. I'd expect the fight probably to not go the distance because Carlos Sanchez is quite a big puncher, and Claggett, is a big puncher as well. So I think both men punch hard enough for this one to probably not go the full 10 that it's scheduled for. Claggett is in some good form as well, and Carlos Sanchez, the one loss came by stoppage to Pedro Campa. I don't think that's a great look, but anyway, could be a good fight. But all eyes to the main event over there, I think. We're going to see Christian Mbile. His record at the moment, 24-0. He's got 20 by KO. He steps in with Demond Nicholson, who's 26-5 with a draw. It's for the WBC Continental America's super middleweight title. Nicholson, obviously, just kind of like an opponent for me. I've never rated him too highly. Like I say, you go back, he lost a split decision to Steve Rolls. That doesn't look good. Got knocked out by Jesse Hart. Won a split decision against journeyman Mike Guy. The only thing he did in recent years to get a bit of kind of recognition was he was the first guy to take Edgar Berlanga the distance, and at that point Edgar Berlanga was 16-0 with 16 first round knockouts, and he took him 8 rounds. He showed a bit of toughness there. He put together 3 wins in a row, then got in with Demetrius Andrade last time, and he lost that fight convincingly. A 10-round unanimous decision, 100-88. All 3 judges' scorecards, so he completely got dominated by Andrade, as expected. That was 8 months ago. He gets in with a completely different fighter here, and it's just a case of will Mbile be able to stop him or not. The bookies think that he will. I think there's an interesting bet on the over-under, which I think set at about 6.5 rounds, so that's interesting there. Moving on, though, to the Peacock in Canning Town, London. This one, just one fight to mention, goes down on Saturday. We're going to see friend of the show, Nick Webb, the big heavyweight, 17-3. It's a 4-rounder. He gets in with a guy called Mo Islam Khan, who's 3-0. Never heard of the guy at all. But all the best to Nick Webb. Hopefully gets a good win there. And then, the final card to mention. It goes down on Saturday at the Rock Hill. Well, it's actually in a place called Rock Hill. I'm not sure what the arena's called. It's in South Carolina. And it features friend of the show. He was on last week's show. The undefeated cruiserweight, Craig Parker. He's 14-0 with 14 KOs, all within 2 rounds. He gets in with Antonio Brown. It's over 6 rounds. All the best there to Craig Parker. Like I say, friend of the show, had him on last week. And he gets in with Antonio Brown, who's 8-3, all 8 by KO, and all 3 losses by KO. So I don't think we're going to see this fight go the distance. Both men combined have had 25 fights, and none of them have gone the distance. So I don't think we're going to see 6 rounds played out here. All the best, though, to Craig Parker. And that brings the preview part to a close. So I just want to say, Archie, before we close this off, thank you once again for stepping in for Eddie. We've done this before, and we'll probably do it again some other time, but thank you so much for filling in at late notice, my man.
No, it's all good. Thanks for having me on, mate. I enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Right, well, there we go. Before we bring this part to a close, the final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 412 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Archie Sharp has been with me for the duration of the show. It's been really good having him on. He filled in for Eddie, like I say. Massive shout out to Archie Sharp. Big fight coming for him, I'm sure, in the near future. Ranked number 2 in the world with the WBO, but it was good hosting the show with the undefeated Super-Featherweight contender, Mr. Archie Sharp. So again, massive shout out to him. But the biggest shout of all goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again same time next week.